What's up, Packer fans? Welcome back to the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Wanted to talk about a topic today that I haven't, frankly, spent a ton of time talking about, at least recently, and that is Jordan Love and a status report on Jordan Love and where he's at currently, how he looked at OTAs, and just sort of where he's trending. And to be honest, I'm not sure it's that great. And, he had a very meh OTA performance this past week. Wouldn't say it was bad. Wouldn't say it was good. Sort of was there, and just sort of had this overarching feeling that it just sort of felt like same Jordan Love. There was nothing more. There was nothing different. It just sort of felt like the exact same Jordan Love that I've been seeing for the last couple of years, even if it is in limited time. But nothing jumped out at me new. Nothing made me go, oh, wow, that's different, or that's surprising, or that's better. It just sort of looked the same. And to some extent, even though it's just one OTA and we don't want to make too much out of anything at this point, it was slightly disappointing. I think if I'm being a little bit fair when sort of just discussing where he's at this point. And I want to point out here that we overall are at an information deficit when it comes to Jordan Love, right? It's not like we have a huge sample size to go off of with Jordan Love. We've got a few preseason games. We've got a full regular season start in Kansas City. We had a little bit of garbage time play against Detroit a season ago, a couple snaps here and there in other situations. Training camp last year and the year before that, a couple OTAs this year. We don't have a ton to go off of, but more importantly, what I mean by that information deficit is we don't have a real feel for his knowledge and capacity of the offense, how comfortable he is with it, what checks and audibles he's able to do, what he's doing behind the scenes. The mental side of it is something that we don't have a great understanding of from the outside looking in. And we don't know what his real starting point was as a rookie, and if Green Bay is actually fairly encouraged by the strides that Love's made overall, and maybe he is still within the realm of meeting their expectations for his growth as a passer and as a quarterback and as a leader. But from the outside looking in, there's not a ton to go off of at this point that leaves you super excited. And while we don't know a ton about Jordan Love at this point, I think that's still fair to say, there are two things that I think are worth pointing out that we do know to be true. The first is that we do know that Green Bay in back-to-back off seasons has had opportunities to trade Aaron Rodgers away and probably get a pretty big king's ransom in return for his services. And they decided not to do that. And a couple things here. It's very clear in some capacity why, because Aaron Rodgers has been the MVP of the league the last two seasons. And you don't always really want to get in the habit of trading away good players, much less the MVP of the league. Rodgers' play has been fantastic. Again, he's been MVP in back-to-back seasons. He's clearly giving you the best chance to win right now. And you have a team that's really set up to win right now. You've done everything in your power to open up these all-in seasons and these, opportunities to win a championship. And going from Rodgers to Love sort of erases all the work that you've done, at least in this current window that you have open right now. So it's really difficult to do that and make that change. But it's also, I think, noteworthy because if Green Bay felt that Jordan Love was even remotely ready, and it's not unheard of, right? Like Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith and then he was ready in year two, made a huge jump and then was ready to go from there. I'm not saying they're the same quarterback. I'm not saying it's the same trajectory, but Mahomes and Love weren't taken it's not like one was taken in, first overall and the other was a seventh rounder, right? I think Mahomes was 10th overall and Love was 24th, 26th, somewhere in there. So, it's the difference of 14 to 16 picks, and I know that can still make a difference when it's the first round, but we're also in an era where, the best, couple quarterbacks just a handful of years ago in a 5 quarterback draft were Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen when Darnold and Mayfield went, earlier, and even Josh Rosen was taken well before. So it's not like your draft position automatically means anything. There's an opportunity. There was a chance that Love could have came in and wowed people and in year 2 or at least year 3 was ready to take the reins. And, even if Rodgers was still playing at an MVP level, if Love looked great and Green Bay had the opportunity to get a king's ransom for Rodgers, that would have been the best of all worlds. But it is clear that they did not feel comfortable either last offseason or this offseason in moving on from Aaron Rodgers and letting Jordan Love take the reins. And while I do think that that is a bigger indication of how they feel about Rodgers, I do feel it is also an indication that they just don't feel Love is ready to take that step as a legitimate starter that could get them to the promised land and win them a Super Bowl at this point. And whether that was a fair or even in the remote possibility at this point of his career is a fair question. Maybe that was never the case. Maybe it was always going to take a handful of seasons to get Love where he needed to be. But it's clear that he's not there at this point, or Green Bay may have decided to go in that direction. I think the other thing we do know is that this was a very poor quarterback class, and there were definitely some teams, Steelers and Panthers amongst others, that really needed to come away with a quarterback, and nobody traded for Jordan Love. And it's not to say that teams didn't try. Maybe teams were calling and offering Green Bay a third or fourth round pick for Jordan Love, and Green Bay just said, no, we're not interested. But I also think that we are at a time with the Packers that this is a all-in sort of franchise at the moment. And if they got a deal that they couldn't refuse, like even if it involved like another first-round pick, I think Green Bay would have had to have been in on that. But it's clear that other teams did not value Jordan Love as a starter at this point either. Otherwise, there would have been a huge demand and a huge thirst for Jordan Love as a potential starting quarterback this offseason. And there clearly was not that. And I do believe if some team came around, even with just a general first-round pick, even if it was a late first-round pick, I believe Green Bay would have done that. But I don't think any team got anywhere close to that. I don't think the desire for Jordan Love was there from other teams, and Green Bay ultimately held on rather than taking pennies on the dollar in return for their, previous, first and third round investment that they gave up. So I think those are the two things we do know. Green Bay is not ready to move to Jordan Love as a starter, and no other team was interested in a down quarterback year in Jordan Love's services. I think those are the things we know, and that's not a great sign at this point. The other thing that I'm a pretty firm believer in, and there's always exceptions to the rule, but I'm a very firm believer that at this point in time, within the first 2 or at least 3 years, but I think more often than not 2 years, if you have your quarterback or not. Name the 2 quarterbacks that you could maybe make an argument for that don't follow that rule. One is clearly Aaron Rodgers. The other is probably Ryan Tannehill. Rodgers is the clear outlier. More on that in just a moment. The other one is maybe Ryan Tannehill. But even Tannehill, in his second season, completed over 60% of his passes as the primary starter. His team went 8-8, and he had 24 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. And that was in year 2, and with a very bad Miami Dolphins team. So even there were some flashes. And I would also argue that while Ryan Tannehill has had a real resurgence in his career, there's also a limit to that ceiling for Ryan Tannehill, right? Like, he's been pretty darn good, but is he going to ever get you over the hump? The answer to that is probably not. So that's the only real outlier and in recent memory. And while Aaron Rodgers is the clear other outlier, that he's really it. And the other thing here is Aaron Rodgers existed at a totally different time of quarterback development, where you had more time in practices, you had more, training camp practices, you had more time to do the Mike McCarthy quarterback school. You had all of these other things that were available to Aaron Rodgers to help him succeed and grow that Jordan Love doesn't necessarily have available to him. I would make a strong argument, and I would say all of the quarterbacks by year 2, the 2 other outliers that maybe took a little bit longer. Josh Allen showed real flashes in year 2, but it wasn't until year 3 where he started to take the league by storm. Matthew Stafford was injured or I didn't play a ton. I didn't look too much into it. I'm assuming he was injured in year 2. He barely played in year 2. And then it was in year 3, which was really sort of his year 2 as a starter, that he took off and started to have, be a really good quarterback in the league. But other than that, right, all of the top quarterback, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford, all of the top quarterbacks not named Aaron Rodgers and maybe Ryan Tannehill showed real promise by year 2 or, again, minimum year 3. There's just not many outliers, and I'm a firm believer that more often than not, at this point, even if it's guys that have had to sit on the bench a little bit, and which is Patrick Mahomes' his whole first season, basically. So we just haven't seen that, and I think that's worth noting. And I don't think that a lot of the current NFL is conducive to players maybe sitting on the bench and learning all these traits. It just hasn't really worked that great. If you're not seeing a return on investment at this point from Jordan Love, the odds are it's not going to work out. And again, there's always outliers, and maybe Green Bay has the next one following Rodgers in Jordan Love, and it's going to take 3 or 4 years for him to, see that trajectory through. Every player, as Green Bay Packer fans should know better than anyone, has a different point where their careers click. Brett Favre certainly did not. And when I talk about the previous quarterbacks, I was obviously talking about current quarterbacks, but like Brett Favre had a real difficult start to his career. Aaron Rodgers had a real difficult start to his career. So maybe Jordan Love is just the next in line in that lineage. There's still always that possibility, but the odds are that if you're not showing promise by year 3, your odds of succeeding just go incredibly down. And it's just been proven, I think, by the state of the quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Now, Pete Doherty had a great article out on Jordan Love this week. I recommend reading it over on PackersNews.com. But one of his quotes in the article was, it's hard to see how you bet on Jordan Love at this point. Now, he also went on to say, the Aaron Rodgers comp of nobody would have bet on Aaron Rodgers at this point either. But it is really hard to bet on Jordan Love and say, I feel good about him succeeding. As mentioned, I didn't think he had a really great OTA this week. He had a ball that just completely fluttered, missed Christian Watson on a ball, didn't do anything. He was still taking checkdowns, quick, easy checkdowns rather than trying to push the ball down the field in the 2-minute drill. There was just nothing there that made me go, okay, we're progressing in the right direction. And the other thing I would say here is we're now in year 3. What's your favorite Jordan Love memory or moment? And I know it's not fair probably to ask the casual observer that, because they really only got 3 preseason games and a regular season game and a half from Jordan Love up to this point. But I can tell you, as somebody who's been at OTAs and training camps and has watched those preseason games and regular season games at length, the Jordan Love moments have been few and far between. There was one insanely good practice a season ago that everyone went nuts about. Outside of that, there just hasn't been anything that gives you that belief of, all right, things are clicking and here you go. He's on the right path, or we think we see real flashes and signs of his potential. We just haven't seen anything like that. And I do think there's still a tremendous amount of potential there, but you're starting to get to the point where you want to see a little bit something more tangible, right? Something you can sink your teeth into and say, all right, that's why he was a first round pick. I just don't think we've had that moment yet. And it should be noted here as well that I do think with Jordan Love, there should be some accident forgiveness. Now, this is ultimately the NFL, and you're a first-round pick. It is your job to go out and succeed regardless of circumstances. It just is what it is. But Jordan Love came in the COVID season, no rookie mini camps, no OTAs, no preseason. That set him behind. And because of that, he was only the number 3 quarterback. Tim Boyle was the number 2 in his rookie season, which means he got nothing next to nothing in practice, right? All of the snaps are going to Rodgers, and any other major snaps are going to Tim Boyle. So Love is going to do some scout work stuff here and there, but his time and what he gets to do in practice is going to be super minimal. And last year, you have the whole Rodgers drama in the offseason. It benefits him that he gets a lot of these reps, but when he gets in regular season action, I don't think that Chiefs game was a great situation or circumstance for him. They blitzed the heck out of it, and Green Bay had no answers. I don't think that was just on Jordan Love. When he got in the Lions game, that team had already packed it in for the season, was looking forward to the playoffs at that point. So I don't know. I think you can give some accident forgiveness with Jordan Love, but now is the time. It is beyond time to like start seeing something from this sort of player. Like you just want, again, something that you can sort of sink your teeth into, and it's starting to get to be do or die time, at least for Love's future in Green Bay. Let's not forget that Green Bay, after this season, going into next offseason, will have to make a very expensive fifth-year option decision on Jordan Love. And as of right now, I don't know how you can extend that with what you've seen. So if Jordan Love doesn't start putting better tape, even in practice and in exhibition games, I just don't know how you can give him a fifth-year option, which then basically, it closes almost any window for his chance of success in Green Bay. And that's just going into next season already, which is, that's year 4 for Jordan Love. And again, we haven't gotten anything yet. The other question I legitimately have at this point that I don't think anyone's really talked about yet, but are we sure and are we certain that Jordan Love is good enough to be the number 2 quarterback? And I'll start by saying this. I don't think Kurt Benkert can beat him out. I certainly don't think I don't think the other quarterbacks on this roster are going to beat him out. Danny Etling. I don't think Danny Etling's going to beat him out. I don't think you're going to acquire any other quarterbacks. So I think Jordan Love is going to be the number 2 quarterback, and I expect Jordan Love to be the number 2 quarterback. But is he good enough that you feel comfortable if Jordan Love needs to go out there and play 4 games that he can get you a win or 2? I'm not sure the answer is yes. And if that's, I think that's the most telling thing at this point, right? If you're concerned that in a 4-game Aaron Rodgers absence, that you wonder if Jordan Love can get you to 1 or 2 wins, that's all you really sort of need to know, right? And I'm not saying he can't. I'm not saying they can't go 3-1 in those games. I'm not saying he can't succeed. I'm not saying he's not still chock full of potential. And I'm well aware of history and what happened with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers and the starts of their career. We've seen people struggle through year 2 in Devontae Adams, even Rashawn Gary to some extent. There have been plenty of Packers who have it's taken to year 3 or even beyond that to really click as a player. So I am not writing Jordan Love off. I'm unequivocally not writing Jordan Love off at this point. I still think he's a lottery ticket where you don't know what you're going to get. But I do feel like the odds have gotten longer for Jordan Love and that lottery ticket to pay off than maybe what they were when Green Bay initially drafted him. I do think Gutekunst was wise to hold on to him this offseason, and you just never know when the moment is that maybe that player with a ton of talent is just going to click and the game's going to slow down for him. But it is time now for the game to start slowing down for Jordan Love and to start showing at least some flashes of that potential that Green Bay was so excited about when they used a 1st and 3rd round pick on him. This training camp and this preseason is going to tell us a lot about the development of Jordan Love and whether or not he's ready to take that next step. And quite frankly, that might be the real last chance that Jordan Love has if everything goes according to plan and Aaron Rodgers stays healthy all year. Outside of garbage snaps, that might be the last chance that Jordan Love gets to prove that he is going to be a long-term Green Bay Packer or has even a chance or is going to get a 5th-year option and those sort of things. His opportunities and chances may be dwindling. And this offseason and preseason and the opportunities he'll get as QB1 in these OTAs and when Aaron Rodgers is out and training, these are going to be extremely important snaps and just an incredibly important offseason for Jordan Love. I think any Packer fan has certainly got to be rooting for him, right? You want to see this player succeed and take that step, even if it's just to get draft capital back in return next offseason. Whatever it is, it's beneficial if you're a Packer fan to see him succeed. Right now, I'm not super confident that that's going to be the case. Once again, as always, I hope I'm wrong. I hope he goes out and kills it. I'm cheering for him, but I think we need to see a little bit more, and we haven't seen it yet from Jordan Love. That's going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for joining me. Always appreciate it. I'll be right back here tomorrow with an all-new episode. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.